artificial intelligence cannot exist or succeed without human collaboration, because content has lost its meaning a bit, the same way awesome has.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Everything is
I
content,
would
for
say
God's
so.
sakes. Now, I'm rude by nature. I'm not saying everyone needs to be that, but I think being unexpected cuts through the noise, and that's
Hey guys, this is Hady Shaikh from Tech Rebel. We're back with episode 7 of Technology for a Change. And I'm excited to have on board with us Kate Bradley Chernis as our guest. She happens to be the founder and CEO of Lately, a platform that uses AI and creates content for marketers, artists, business owners, you name it. This is something we tech enthusiasts have p- relentlessly been talking about regarding, product development in digital media, and I could go on about how this has taken, storm on it. I will have her on the show, and then be able to give her, intro with all due respect.
hello.
Hey, hi Kate. Welcome. Welcome
Hi.
to the show. How's everything going? How are you doing today?
Thank you so much. Well, it's Monday morning. So far, so good. One meeting already down, and I managed to get my exercise in. I'm always like trying to get that first jolt of the day, and get your butt out there. And it's so hard, Hottie. Like just the mental well-being, right? You got to work it in.
Oh, definitely. Our last episode we were talking about mental health, and we were
Mm.
talking about, personal as well as professional development, and things, we have to go through as entrepreneurs, day in, day out. So are you like 5 a.m. in the morning? Is it that rigid or yet,
No.
or okay, all right.
Sleep wins in my world, right? I mean, I remember like having a bit of a come to Jesus with myself around that a few years ago, and I just decided to not turn on an alarm when possible, and just
Okay.
get as much sleep as I need. Let it be natural, because when that doesn't happen, I ruin everyone else's day, right?
Oh yeah.
That's the domino
So I
effect.
the oh yes. Definitely. So guys, without further ado, she basically has or been a former rock and roll DJ. Is that correct?
It's true. Yes. Yep.
She's served 20 million listeners as a music director and has been an on-air host at Sirius XM. So she's also a award-winning radio producer, an engineer and voice talent with 25 years of national broadcast communications. Kate, do you want to continue any of that, or
Sure, all the fun stuff, right? I mean, who would have thunk that a career in radio would parlay into a career running an artificially intelligent SaaS company? And not me, right? In fact, it feels all accidental a little bit, but the non-accident is the wisdom you have to know to start connecting the dots that you've laid down through your life, right, Hadi?
yeah?
So that's a big part of it. But one of the interesting things around, and I'll just digress for a second because I think it's important. My Uber power from radio is turning listeners into fans or customers into evangelists. Similar idea
Amazing.
there, right?
That's
And
amazing.
and what does that mean? I mean, it's one thing to talk about how to do that on the microphone, but you can do it and you were saying that you were at a conference. So how do you do that in person at a conference? How do you do it through a Zoom call? How do you do it through writing a text message or a social media message? And it turns out that many of the components are the same and can be translated, which is how lately started to grow, and really capitalize on this experience. And we can get into more detail about that. But I mean, that's, I think, the key for any entrepreneur is to think about, how can I metaphorically take the successes that are right in front of me already, and use or twist or mold them to enhance this software thing I'm doing here, this crazy other thing, right?
I guess that's when you really, I mean, you've identified or you've gotten into the neuroscience of
Right.
communications with, different functions that you've been involved in, which is currently fueling the AI, lately's AI, to be
True.
specific.
Yeah, and I'm not a neuroscientist by any means, but what I was interested in radio was the how of what I was doing, and I was having these unlikely successes for the format we were in, and a number of other things. And one of the things I started thinking about was the theater of the mind, Hadib. So, it's not very present when we're doing video because video is a gimme. All the instructions are right out in front. You don't have to do a lot as a viewer to get it, right? We're giving you everything. But if you're reading or if you're just listening, those
Right.
two acts require you to participate, require the imagination to fill in the blanks, right? There's a beautiful thing there that is unexplainable to some degree. And as the host of a radio show or as an author, if you're good, you allow for that unexplainable thing or that third character, you might say, to have a voice into the story. And you're good enough to guide them to get you where you want to go along the storyline, but also enough to make them feel as though they have a voice. They're part of the conversation. That's the trick, right? Um, and when that was the realization that I had from music into writing or radio into lately, because lately is about writing essentially. And to put it, I'll try to, I know this is kind of vague a little bit. I'll try to put it into real life. So I think about like a metaphor. If you're at a conference or you're in a room and you're networking, you don't want to be the loudest voice in the room. You don't want to be the person putting on a show. You want to be the person that makes everyone else feel that they're the light in the room. When you're able to do that, you make the fans. They walk away remembering you and no one else because you're playing on the ego is what you've done, right?
That's what they remember, like how you made people feel.
Hmm.
It's not about, what you do. It's not
Hmm.
about, how much money you make at the end of the day, right? It's basically how you made them feel. Wow. I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was gonna go get into networking because, I mean, you've been, a guest speaker on sales, marketing, and entrepreneurial podcasts. You've led presentations for Walmart, Ericsson, SAP, and I did want to tap into, how you go about networking. So, I mean, bringing that up is amazing. Putting the light on the others.
Yeah. That's the
That's
trick.
wonderful.
And it's not all gushy mushy, right? I mean, there's an end. Like I don't want anyone to think that. I mean, everything I do is very calculated and I have a hard time not doing things for lately, right? Everything I'm thinking about it. Even we were joking on LinkedIn the other day. I had mentioned that I've been married for 12 years now, but even our
Wow.
wedding, I figured out how to take as a marketing tax deduction and make it a marketing event because it was. I mean, I still use those pictures almost every day for something or
To
other.
tell your story, is that part of your story?
Yeah, it's part of the
Of course.
story. And I mean, well, one of the things I realized was that everybody wants a headshot, of course. And so, of course, I have the headshot of me looking a lot nicer than I do right now and professional and wear the jacket and all that. But wouldn't it be more fun if I sent them one of me jumping around playing a guitar, which I don't actually play, but it looks like I do? And that's the one that stands out and gets the attention. So, we we have a lot of those from our wedding. So I use them all the time and it's fun because people smile, they laugh, they want to talk about it. It's the easy way in. When before we hit record today, I asked you some personal questions. Where are you in the world? What season
Okay.
is it? All those things that you were telling me. What have you been doing? And so I learned in a few minutes just a little bit about you, right? And because this is going to be better if I do. And you, right? Now we know each other.
Of course.
Yeah. Like we might want to have a meal together someday.
For sure.
What can we
I
do?
mean, you are coming by Dubai. That's what I learned. I hope you take it.
Yeah. Yeah, me too.
All
It'll
right.
be a
Yeah,
trip of
I'm
a
gonna
life
be
for me.
looking forward to that.
Thanks. But so those little efforts of feeling, let's break that down so people understand why it's so important. When you and I'm going to back up a little bit here. So here's the neuroscience of music listening. That is the meat of what has inspired me. When you listen to a new song, Hady, your brain must instantly access every other song you've ever heard in that moment, like lightning. And it's trying to find familiar touch points so it knows where to index that new song in the library of the memory of your brain. And so, in order to do that, it's tapping into nostalgia, emotion, memory. These things all come as a package, right? Now, guess what? They all have to be in place for trust to happen as well. And trust is why we buy.
Absolutely.
Okay. So similarly, your voice has a frequency to it, like a song. There's a musical note to your voice, everyone's voice. Okay.
Hmm.
Now, when you write me an email or a text or a Slack message, I hear your voice in
There's
my
your
head.
tone.
There's
There's
your
the
tone.
tone as well.
There it is.
Right.
Right. And your job then is to make sure I feel the right thing. I'm not like, oh, what a jerk. I'm like, oh, yeah, he's awesome. You want to communicate what you mean to communicate. And that's hard to do for many, many people, even me. I mean, I like to joke to say that I have resting bitch face in writing. So a lot of smiley faces and emojis. And the place I don't do that is like with my husband or internally in Slack with my team, because those are the people I feel I can let my guard down and just kind of be myself because they won't
I mean, you've
misunderstand.
been interacting with them, people around, like your husband or colleagues.
Yeah,
I mean, your team, they kind of know your tone. I mean, they understand that. But
that's
you're
right.
absolutely right. I mean, when I mean, you have these. I mean, I'm sure you have Telegram groups, WhatsApp groups. You kind of have to just make sure that. I mean, I always go by, assuming positive intent,
Mhm.
right? Just to make sure that, okay, you know what, it's
Right.
about work. Let's just help each other out with the job and make sure that, we're getting things done, being productive. But yeah, okay.
That's a good
So
policy.
yeah, from the yeah, I try. I mean, and getting it across the team too really helps. Assume positive intent really works. So yeah, tone. You were telling me about um, how would that basically pick up now? And secondly, I was thinking all along. I mean, is it more like copy or content? Um, what do you think that difference is?
Oh, that's a good question. You know, I mean, all content breaks down into copy, even video and audio, because it can be transcribed into words, and the words are the building blocks of how we communicate in every language,
Right.
which is what lately focuses on very specifically which words and ideas, even the sentence structures, are getting the maximum engagement for you, are getting the maximum emotion, which ones cause and trigger the most trust, right? This is exactly what we study. And so it's a cheap answer on my part, I'm sorry to say. One is part of the other. Um, but I think it's okay to I think it's important actually to to go with copy, because content has lost its meaning a bit the same way awesome has,
Oh yeah,
right? Everything is
I
content,
would
for
say
God's
so.
sakes.
Everything is anything you put up there, and yeah, I mean, I mean, not to demotivate anyone, but I mean, everyone's a content creator in 2022.
That's right, right. And is the question is yours or is it effective? That's what we're all trying to get our heads around. And so our aim was to demystify this process by going to the very, very basics, because heretofore, where most marketing softwares flourish is on the either the management side, so organizing, scheduling, calendaring, all that, or on the analytics side, you know. But and marketers love to get lost in all the jargon of analytics. The bummer is that nobody knows what they're talking about. Even they don't know what they're talking about usually. It's just a bunch of biz blab. Yet there's all these people that need to understand these
Right.
analytics, whether it's, your boss or your sales team or anyone else. They have to be translated. So let's just cut through all that noise and go down to the basics, the word, the words, the string of words, and to talk about, you know, why this works versus this doesn't. So let me give you an example that would make it simple to understand. Okay. So women, especially, self-included, we tend to undermine our own authority with lots of apologies and excuses. So we
Right.
have like a series of crutch words that we like to lean on, and people in general do this, not only women, but like think. Oh, I think this versus I know this, or I just wanted to say hi versus hi, right? Or possibly, probably, all these things.
Justification, or there's some sort of justification there where.
That's right. So if you write down what you want to write down and you look for those kinds of weak words specifically and edit them out, there's another residual benefit, which is usually by editing them out, the next word is a verb. And if you start a sentence with a verb, you have to change the verb so it becomes an active verb, probably, and it becomes a statement.
Right.
And statement always gives you authority, number one, but also then it turns your sentence into a call to action, which also gives you authority and makes people do what you want them to do. So I was saying to you how everything I do has a purpose, and all communication, all of it, is about getting someone else to do what you want them to do. There's no shame in admitting this. So I'm
Not at all.
backing into every word choice with this intent.
I mean, I think that's the first sale the human makes when they're born. I mean, when they're crying, they're actually communicating, hey, I'm hungry here.
That's the best thing. I'm totally stealing that. That's the best thing anyone has said to me in an interview. I'm gonna use that. It's great. So good. I love it.
So, how did you determine, like, what was that point where you said, where these words and copy and marketing, there's a lot of, I mean, if you look at these bigger brands, they're not really selling the product, they're selling these emotions as to how you would feel while using, you know
Mhm.
and that's what I often tell to the different founders that I come across, entrepreneurs who are willing to do something. I'm like, okay, so what emotions or ancillary jobs are basically attached to the problem that you're trying to solve, right?
Yeah.
And that is what they would resonate with. That's what would basically have them approach you, or have them approach your product or service. um I mean, and in a world where there's, I would say, competition. I mean, it's very competitive. I know it's going collaborative, um
Mm.
because of things like Slack and um, other aspects. I mean, yeah, that's the term these days, but I mean, it's still very competitive, right? So
Hmm.
I think that's when copy, or content would basically stand out and
Yeah.
kind of assure that, I mean, this is what you, or this is what we want you to do. Click here.
Click here, right? Yeah, it's that simple. I mean, it's so funny because this art is very difficult, even though it is so simple, and it can be partly for the misunderstanding of the tone and the intent we talked about earlier. We've all received a Slack message that maybe doesn't get the right thing across, or a text message. Um, but then there's also the BS factor, which is in those brands you said, for example, who want us to feel whatever they want us to feel. I mean, we can smell it a mile away. They're not fooling
does
anyone.
does lately cut that out?
It does. It works hard to do that. You know,
It's learning.
it's learning it, but it's BS in. I mean, you can't. It's garbage in, garbage out. Magic has not been invented yet, Hady. Right? I mean,
So yeah, back to the fact where, it was obviously a lot of data to consume, and what I would want you to define to the audience in your understanding as to what is AI, what is artificial intelligence for you, and
I think.
how would you define its association and incorporation within this business?
Well, that's a great question. So for us, for me specifically, artificial intelligence cannot exist or succeed without human collaboration. Period.
Right? Yeah.
So we
Period.
don't
Oh,
separate them, right? There's no
okay.
replacing a human where we are. And I feel like this is something we have a hard time communicating. So let me try. AI on its own is very cold. It's a robot. And humans on their own can be very slow and maybe not at their best, let's say. But together, and only together, is in our world, and in content creation specifically, is when you see it really light up. So the AI at Lately, for example, will already get you to third base already. We're going to start you there. But
All right.
with the human involved, will get you not only the distance around the plate into home, but you get a run also. So it is a 1 + 1 = 33,000. It's so much bigger, right? A lot of that is because artificial intelligence is like a garden. You have to tend it. You have to keep it learning and, guide it around. Um, and I think the other component as well is we're seeing our customers do dual learning. So they're teaching the AI, but they're also learning from it at the same time,
Absolutely.
right? And that's
So,
excuse me for interrupting you.
no, I'm
That
sorry.
ties back into that. Remember that je ne sais quoi of the imagination, the fill in the blank, that third character. That's what it is at Lately as well. So that's why the human can't be defined and bottled and boxed. So many people in SaaS, especially investors, I'm talking to you, want to do this to us. Okay. Right. They want to just check all the boxes, but you miss the unicorns, you miss the decacorns when you're doing that. Stop it.
That's great advice. That's great advice. We're gonna take a short out of this and put it up for
Great.
sure. I mean, I'm sure at an earlier stage, I mean, you may have, um, had some challenges in creating that synergy that you're just talking about, the 1 + 1. Um, what difference did you come up with initially with, when you were comparing content that was generated by humans versus AI?
We did a
Before
test.
you were fused together, I guess.
Oh,
Was
well,
there a time like that?
yeah, that's the good question. The thing we saw early on was that, and then we still see this now, is there's sorry everyone, but there's a laziness inherent to humans that we've been astonished by, and marketing in particular. The top marketers in the world who we've worked with still ask questions like, um, well, why would I want to market this thing more than once? And you're like, oh my God, are you kidding me? Or, but I don't want to take the time to write it. I want to be doing other things. And it's just sort of like this, the hard way is the way, Hady. I mean, right,
Yeah,
as entrepreneurs, especially, you can't take the shortcuts until you've done it yourself. You can't do paid ads until you've done organic. It's pointless. You need all the testing and the words and the learnings so you can translate that and then obviously scale it. Um, so that has perplexed us consistently. It's like, I mean, giving you this gift of getting you to third base, and it's still not enough. Now we've learned to iterate, and I actually can get you about 10 feet from home plate now. already, but still even that like 1% more is just so hard for people. And the reward is, and let me put some numbers on this for people. So with Gary Vaynerchuk, for example, of VaynerMedia, we did an experiment with him. He fueled an entire Twitter channel. He created a new Twitter channel that was fueled by Lately and nothing else. It got him a 12,000% increased engagement. Okay. And there was an
Wow.
80% correlation between what his humans picked and what my robot picked. So there was a lot that we saw that the AI was doing kind of well there. It would miss on nuances because even, it's funny, I just hired somebody who's working in the UK who speaks English. She speaks the Queen's English. And so she's asking me different things. Like I had said, I said to her, we'll water hose you. You're going to have to cry uncle. And she was like, what? I don't know what you just said. And I was like, I just mixed a bunch of metaphors. Waterboard, fire hose, cry uncle, right? All these things. These are human nuances that they can't translate because there's no repetition that an algorithm can find. It's not like, when you're on your phone now and I'm typing to something like I miss and then it says you, it's because that's a cliche. It's heard over and over and over and over and over again, right? But the nuances that we would say, it won't get that because they're rarities, right? Now those rarities, by the way, and I'll give some more examples, are the things that change the channel. So for example, we discovered that hashtags used traditionally, Hady, as basically a string of index kind of light bulbs or wannabes, let's say call them index wannabes at the end of a social post, are totally antiquated and in fact will sink your algorithm. But instead, if you use hashtags as a one or two word combined optimizer of whatever the message is, you start to see much radically higher engagement. So my highest engaging hashtag was hashtag peeing my pants, because that's what I said when Gary Vaynerchuk tweeted about us, right? And because the AI picked up that there's a human element here, it's the nuance, and it gets the reshares because this is all about that emotion. I want to give, before we jump forward, I want to give folks just one more number so that they can
Sure.
not think what we're talking about is complete BS. So at Lately, we only use Lately and nothing else to do all of our marketing and lead gen. We don't do cold calls or cold emails or any paid ads. And we have a 98% sales conversion. 98%. And that's because the AI is so good at literally identifying those words and keywords and phrases that will get us the highest engagement, get us the most emotion.
I mean, that number just stunned me over there, which I want to get deeper into lately in terms of, so you just mentioned the experiment with Gary, and I mean, uh, how does an individual or a business basically approach you, and what can they expect out of lately? Essentially, is it going to be an audit on their website? Is it their ad copies? As far as integrations are concerned, how far does this go?
Yes. Well, thanks for asking. So on the layperson's level, when you connect your social channels to Lately, we instantly study everything you've published for the last year. Sometimes we can go back farther. It depends on the person and the channel. And we're looking at what messaging got you the highest engagement, and we're breaking that down into the words, the ideas, the phrases, the sentence structures. So now we have a very unique custom writing model that belongs to you and your voice and no one else, right? It's all about you. When you then feed Lately long form content, it could be text form, like a blog or a web article or chapters of a book or any Word document. It could be audio, so any podcast, and it could be any video, so interviewing the CEO or a webinar, really anything. Lately will take that model and it's transcribing the audio and video, first of all, and it's reading the text and it's trying to clip up what it sees, contain what's in the model. So it's got this, it knows already what's going to get you the highest engagement. Once it clips it up, if you have video, it'll actually clip up your video into miniature memes for you as well, or GIFs. What is it? Sorry, one of those guys. I never know which it is. Jiffy. Um, and then with the audio, it'll be an audiogram. So those will be in the social post, and then in some cases, it'll actually also rewrite what it clips up in the efforts of optimizing for you. Now, also, while it's doing all that, it'll give you multiple chances to teach it. So every edit you make, every one you publish, every one you trash, it's learning what you like, what you don't like, what works and what doesn't. It's learning still from your analytics, always ongoing. And then it actually is also accessing a number of other databases. So my best practices first, because who doesn't want a 98% sales conversion? So it's looking at my best practices. It's looking at the best practices of um, all of our customers as well. And then we integrate with some of the top AI platforms in the world, all the top ones in the world as well, to help fill in just a couple of extra blanks for you there. So there's a lot that goes into it. The most important thing, though, is that what Lately is recommending to you is not a blanket best practice. It's very specific to your voice and what will work with your audience.
Is there a certain input that the business would put in, as in what their goals are, what are they looking to achieve? I mean, or does it basically study the product, like a product brief, a product description, or something?
Yeah.
How does it
So
evaluate that?
it's such
Or
good.
I mean, you could tell me if it's a trade secret.
No,
I'll
no.
move to the.
Well, in addition to your analytics from the social channels, because there's clear one-to-one evidence of what works and what doesn't. In our enterprise package, you can upload a series of key messaging to help sort of jumpstart the AI brain and give it added guidance of where your brand voice is and what works for your brand. On the self-service side, the small business side, which we just released 6 months ago, we're now, I'm so glad you asked this, we're just starting to toy with, we found that cadence is the biggest question we always get. How much we want, how much and why. So we're asking you what your goal is around cadence, and then we're showing you how Lately can save you time. It's usually 12. So the average person takes 12 minutes to write a social post by hand. Lately does it, we'll give you, let's say, 24 in about 1.8 seconds, which
Wow,
is pretty fast. Yeah.
almost like 84% of the time that's going into writing would just go down.
I mean, exactly. It's huge. And that's just now it is a jumping off point. Oftentimes 20% of them are ready to go and you don't really have to tinker with them much. But then there's about 40% there's something so meaty in there. And this is where the human needs to intervene. Um, it's so interesting, Hadi, because we do get this question a lot of like, well, why would I want to publish something? Why would I want to advertise this more than once? Right? Or promote this more than once. And I always tell them about radio, right? We've had this experience. I mean, where,
Yeah, I
we,
mean that's what leads to brand recognition. I believe it's the persistency of that brand believing in something. I believe that's why we have campaigns that go on for at least a quarter, right?
that's
To
right.
be able to eventually reach out to almost everyone in that demographic per se, unless it's a failure where that's when they could do the experimentation and, hey, you know what, no, we shouldn't have said that, that wasn't a
Mhm.
good statement, we could probably change it. I now see, we I mean, before going live on the radio, on TV, what difference that can actually make, when understanding what would work and what wouldn't. That's amazing. I mean,
Yeah.
people still kind of have their reservations on AI and how specifically, ads have been following me. I mean, that is retargeting and remarketing.
So
And
annoying.
people are, I mean, do you believe that someone's actually listening? I mean, I wanted to, I don't
Yeah,
think so. It's how it works, right? I mean, they
that
have a
part is
myth.
weird.
It must be,
I'm with you.
yeah, must be a myth on social listening that you've dealt with, or any myth that's the most
Yeah.
common about AI
With
generally.
that, by the way, that's the laziness factor because we do get asked that, and it's so funny how people are so averse. I'm like, you have to go to Twitter and open the app yourself and read what people are saying yourself. Like this is one of those cases where even Twitter and LinkedIn and Facebook and everybody they want you to go there yourself and not always use a third party. Here's your opportunity. If you're not actually involved, it's kind of like I'm always amazed when everyone in the company doesn't receive the company newsletter, right? Because like, how can you possibly know what's going on if you're not putting yourselves in the shoes of the customer?
Absolutely.
It's just insane. But people, that's that lazy factor, right? Because it does take work. This is human required. Um, there's no getting around it. That's just the part of it. But I always say to them, well, I mean, if you already have a 98% sales conversion, then by all means, do it your way. But if you don't, you could try this, right?
Absolutely. All right. And I mean, you must have come across like something of what you've built. I mean, definitely. What was that? What's that biggest challenge that you actually had to overcome, or
Mm,
I mean, how did you tackle it?
so many. I mean, it's endless, right? This is the startup life. It's just constant. As far as the product goes, we we were focused on enterprise sales. Initially, we were focused on small business 7 years ago. That's where we
Okay.
started, and we produced this product that we suffered from product bloat and we feature bloat, and we built sort of too much. We're trying to build what I used to own a marketing agency, so you know from this, Huddy, right? You've been here.
Tell the
I've seen you.
audience, Kate. I'm gonna stop you there.
What's product
You
bloat?
product bloat. I'd love for you to tell people what product bloat is.
We all
I'd
suffer from
appreciate
it.
it.
You can't help it, but that's when you overbuild your product. You build too many features because and it's not, sometimes it's just because you're like, oh well, this would be great to have. We need this, and maybe customers are telling you. A lot of the times people are demanding it, and you just want to please them in the beginning, right? Um, and you're bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, and you realize, first of all, the more you have, the more you have to keep track of, and the more problems there are, and then they're harder to solve, and then you can't figure out where the problems are because there's so many things changing at once. It's a whole crazy beast, right?
Yeah, then they don't know what it is that you're doing. I mean, do you sell sneakers or do you make them?
Yeah, it's we our initial idea was, so I own a marketing agency, and the I did the basics of what lately has become by hand for Walmart, and I got them 130% ROI year over year for 3 years. So the plan was automate that. Okay. And so we took apart this spreadsheet, this behemoth spreadsheet I had built for Walmart with like 20,000 rows. I'm not kidding, at least 40 tabs. And we made each one a feature. Okay. So boom, we're already starting at bloat city. And we saw, though, that the one feature that would read a blog and then clip it up into social posts, people like that a lot. You know, they liked a couple of other features as well. And so we started to talk about the product differently. We didn't know it was AI still, and just do our demos different. And we could see cottoning on more and more, and more, all these other features were just getting ignored. Right. And now they're totally ignored, but we've got so much tech debt and other things. We don't have time to clean up the product and even take them out, even though they're just like lying dormant. So what happened was we ended up growing the product 240% in 2020, monthly recurring revenue. Yay us. Part of that was We built the
Amazing.
video clipping feature. So video was having quite a moment on Zoom in 2020, as you know. And Gary Vaynerchuk came into my life, and all these good things were happening. Then I got into 2021, and the S hit the fan, and I realized that I was putting everybody into an enterprise product, small, medium, and large business. Now we realized it really was an enterprise product. How could they possibly train with my one human resource? Like, it's impossible. They can't afford $300 a month. If I charge them $20 a month, they don't use it, and it's not worth my time. So it, nightmare. So we, having not raised money for 2 years also, and eating glass for months and months and months upon months. It's delicious, by the way. We released our self-service product because it was what we could do with the resources we had. And we could see that in order to, like, very much like Zoom, in order to close enterprise deals, employees were already passing us around and hitting a wall. So let's make it so they can pass us around and close the deals. And oh my God, at the same time, if we do this, the 70% of very small businesses we've been turning away for years should also be able to buy the product, and then we can hit the long tail. So this is the hardest thing I've ever had to do, Hady, because I had to not only eat glass but eat crow, a lot of it, and we're just starting to turn the corner. So I'm in this shitty place where I've got a new product that's killing it. I've got a hockey stick, and I can put $1 in and get $1.50 out. But my old product is stagnant because I haven't been able to I had to choose where to put my resources. Now, technically, I flatlined the company. I flatlined the monthly recurring revenue. In fact, I lost a bunch of it. Okay. So hard to raise money on that because investors are on the binary scale and they see 0 and 1, and I'm still not at 1, And the hard thing is keeping at it and being patient. And it's not hard to believe. We all believe. We all are very clear on what we're doing and that it will work. But waiting out the bullshit, that's hard.
That's definitely hard. I mean, do you think that maybe it was, uh, you know, not really identifying, or how would you have identified your ideal customer profile? Like, how would you have done that if, you had magic is invented and you'd be able to go back in time? What would you do to have
Yeah.
identified that? Something that, a lot of, our clients, a lot of people that we're consulting, their softwares, building their softwares, we really kind of ask them this question. So, what would you suggest in order to be able to approach that faster? I mean,
It's
you've had tons of glass, uh, but how do we save that for the others?
It's so hard. We don't have one still. And it's because everyone is our customer. Nobody wants to hear that. Guess what? I can market to the small businesses and the enterprise companies the same way. And I have a 49% conversion on my self-service product. So, like, that fucking works, excuse my French, right? And it's the thing. It's so annoying because we look at pain point. What's the pain point? And the need of the customer. They are the same. They are the same. The communication of that pain point is what's different, right?
Interesting
Yep.
perspective on that. Yeah,
It really is interesting. And no investor likes to hear this. And it's very hard for me to hire a salesperson and explain them to this as well, right? But then here's what saved me was, and my advice to anyone is to just keep making the effort to find the people that believe in you and will support you. And Mark Roberge, who is one of the world's most famous CROs, he took HubSpot to IPO, and now runs Stage 2 Capital and is a professor at Harvard Business School. He coached me for 8 weeks last summer, or 10 weeks, and he's the one that said, they don't believe you because they've never seen it before. But you're right. And that validation, Hady, that's the fuel that I've been living on for a year and a half, I have to tell you.
amazing. sometimes that's all it takes.
Yeah. Yeah, we talked
Making
about
it work. Making it
men
work.
making it work. We started on the mental aspect, right? And there it is. That's because when you have nothing else, when you have only glass, you can only survive if you can believe.
So would you say that was or that I mean was your most important mentor throughout the way, or who would
Yeah.
I
I
mean we all need one. I mean they say hey you need to have one. Did you?
it's funny. I would say on a product side, well, I would say generally yes. However, the reason I'm hedging is because my co-founders, Brian and Jason, are my favorite mentors, and I can't exist without them. And from advice to problem solving to sense of humor, like I only survive because of these two humans and my husband. But really, there's no, you know, I'm very grateful because
We'd be sure to basically include them as well. Go ahead, tag them so that
yeah,
our audience can kind of follow them, be able to see and understand what it is that you've found in them on either product side, tech side, emotional, mental support, whatever it is. Definitely be able to go ahead and highlight them. Would want to know what it is, and you've been answering so many questions that I've actually had. This has been an amazing conversation where I mean I'm liking it because I'm not really asking you what, who, why, but it's just going there. I think that's what lately has basically done for you. You see the conversations in a very I would say you've been learning from the AI too, I believe.
for sure. I know. I mean, I was thinking about teaching this course actually. You
Do it.
learn to know what to say to get the AI to focus on it, right? I know how to write
Right.
the perfect blog for my product. I know how to give the perfect interview for my product. And I'm going to ask you for the file. I mentioned that. I'm going to ask you for the file, run it through lately, clip it all up, use it as lead gen for me, but drive all the traffic back to you. So I don't care if we have 2 listeners or 20 million listeners. It doesn't matter because it's content.
Let's do this. I mean, let's do this. Like, let's call it a social experiment. We're gonna run this podcast, guys, through lately AI, and we're gonna try to see and understand what it is and how is it actually driving that traffic. Because we were just talking about how it works, and it's amazing. Uh, People who think that the myth regarding social listening has been busted. I always prefer to be targeted as an audience. I want a discount to a staycation. I want a discount for, the next Yeezys that come up and a lot of other things that's happening. So yeah, I definitely think that I mean I see that positively. Um and I guess you are using AI to that advantage, basically helping people not only save time but also understand their customers better. And isn't that what people want? They want to be heard.
Yeah,
They
exactly.
want to be heard, and that's what's happening. That's what Lately is doing. Amazing. Is there anything that you would want to change about the industry, about within AI?
Um, it's funny. No, I don't. I think. I mean, not about AI. Certainly about how female founders
Female first.
get the. It's just that's what I'll
Go
do
for it.
next. What I'll do next is I hope that what I do next is to work at an accelerator and help bolster the egos of female founders and underdogs in general, right? There's so
All
many
right.
people that say they're helping and they're not. They're not putting their money behind their words, and I want to rub it in so hard, Hadi.
You could do that. I mean, I will definitely take a note of that. I know a few accelerators over here in Dubai. in UAE that are focusing on that.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think, if not back home, globally, that would contribute in some way or the other. That's amazing. I mean, as an entrepreneur, it's not just about, being able to raise, 2 million to 10 million or whatever. It's also being able to create an impact, because that's where the passion is coming in from. Gary, you mentioned Gary, and he says, if you're just doing it for the money, then the money will come and go. But
There's
I
always money
believe
somewhere.
eventually, yeah. I mean, so work on the product, stay persistent, believe in the product, and make sure that we are solving a pain point for the customer. And eventually you will be rewarded. I wouldn't say that the money will be coming, but there's a different reward
Yeah,
altogether in that. But then again, when we combine that with your marketing experience with product strategy, learning from previous mistakes, I mean, how many times did you have to basically, you mentioned a soft launch, and how many times did you launch?
oh god, every day I feel like I mean, like we literally iterate every day. Um,
Absolutely,
it's
iterate.
constant, constant, and I'm lucky because my co-founders can do that, right? They have that nimble ability, and they see the value in it. Obviously, that's a big thing. We learn fast, and we're willing to learn until we nail it. That's
Right.
that's the patience, right? Like how like either we give up or we keep learning until you get there, whatever the there is. Or you know you, some
For sure.
finally you admit you're out of your mind. um,
Ye-
yeah,
I
it's just a
agree.
wild guy. I wouldn't recommend anybody do this, by the way. Like,
We'll cut that
run.
off. We'll cut that off.
Yeah.
We do. I mean, I happen to motivate based on facts, based on strategic. And sometimes we're just trying to make sure that, I mean, asking these questions that actually say or make them think, hey, you know what? Maybe you're right. This isn't such a good idea. So I mean, we feel like it's our job to make sure that we're able to kind of shake a little bit of reality into a lot of people that come up to us saying, "Hey, we want to be able to build X, Y, Z, but hey, are you willing to give in that time?
I think that yeah,
Are you willing to wait till you're 40 till
that's
you
the
make
best
your first?"
sign of a CEO, by the way, is to know when to fold them, right?
Yeah, right. You started off, with us entering into a networking event. What methods are you still focusing on? Do you just walk into a room, or what is it that
As far as
what
events go,
methods are you? Yeah,
an event is only valuable for me if I'm on stage. It's not valuable otherwise. That sounds a little selfish, but it's the honest truth. Because the cost of
you're
the
at that
ticket,
level.
cost of travel, yeah, it's just too much. And
Yeah, but I mean, if you were to basically, like, someone starting out within the
oh,
city, I mean, there's a lot happening.
yeah.
What do you think those methods still work, or is it better to just basically drop in a message, say, "Hey, I'd like to have 15 minutes of your time over Zoom,"
I
versus
mean,
meeting over?
so I'll tell a story, and then I gotta split after this story. But so my first accelerator that I was in, ERA, Entrepreneurs Roundtable Accelerator in New York, we had applied, but I've learned this lesson and I've used it in everything, which is going through the regular paths are for not the winners. Let me just say, you always have to have, or I'm always looking for, not for the shortcut, but for like the leg up. And so they had a cocktail party, and I was told to go and ask to find Marat. Okay, and I didn't
Hmm.
really know who that was. He's someone who was leading the accelerator. So we show up at this huge club in New York City. It's like the kind where there's 3 stories, and I did first thing I did was I have a coat. It's all gold. I wore my gold coat, and I did that because I'm in New York and everyone's in black, right? So I knew
Hmm.
I would stand out. And
Right.
here we are, and we're in the bar, and I see there's this line, 50 people deep, and Marat is in a corner. That's Marat waiting. Each entrepreneur is waiting to talk to him, and I'm thinking, I'm not fucking waiting in this line. So I just walk up to him and I said, "Hey, Marat, Brian said I should come and say hi to you. I'm Kately from Lately." And he stopped what he was doing and he's like, "Can you wait right here? I'm going to come and find you in 10 minutes." And I said, "Sure." So I waited for 10 minutes and he came and found me. And I gave him my pitch. And we got into the accelerator, by the way.
Amazing.
Yeah. And
Wow. I mean, so yeah. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut
no,
you off.
no, but I
Please.
mean, so there you go. Like the now I'm rude by nature. I'm not saying everyone needs to be that, but I think being unexpected cuts through the noise, and that's
Okay. And of course, there's a lot of noise. There's a lot happening. I mean, you could have spent the next 3 hours just trying to get to know people, right? But you had an
yeah,
objective.
right.
I
But and
think knowing your objective is very clear
it is, and
during these
also that
sessions.
room was full of people I didn't want to know. It was full of entrepreneurs, right? I wanted to know the guy at the top of the accelerator, and I mean, that's the thing about conferences that is super annoying. We're all there to make a sale. Like it's fine to talk to the other people in your booths or whatever, but like that's why I think they can be a waste of time. No, sometimes or conferences do a good job of badging, where like your badge will say, "I'm a company, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm in sales, I'm in marketing." They have these little flags that they put on, or investors, which I think is brilliant because that cuts through all this. I don't have time to shake everybody's hand. I mean, I know that sounds
Of
terrible,
course,
but like
yeah,
I just don't. I got to make the most of the time, and I would do the same thing at SaaStr. If someone is speaking and I want them to invest in me, I'm the first person
100%.
when they get off
Yeah,
stage that's there. Just
awesome.
push your way up.
That's great advice. It's definitely a lot that we have gone over, and this has been very exciting. This has been, I mean, we will definitely be doing a summary of everything that we've spoken about. Kate, really appreciate your time, and after knowing what you just told me, I'm glad that you were willing to talk to us.
Thank you.
And be on our podcast. I'm definitely sure that this has been helpful for a lot of people. We'll put up the main points that we went over, and we'll catch you later. Once again, guys, thank you for watching.